Sitting atop a steep cliff overlooking West Clear Creek, these ruins, believed to have been the largest habitation site in the Verde Valley, consists of both cavates, which are hand-carved caves, and a large pueblo complex on the mesa top. These ruins are a significant ancient Sinagua settlement near Camp Verde, Arizona, dating from around 1150 current era, and was inhabited until the 1500s. The site features both a pueblo and cavates, or hand-carved caves, into the cliffs above the West Clear Creek. It was a large village with many rooms and was occupied by the Sinagua and later the Yavapai. The site played a role in a historically important trade route and was part of an 1870s Indian reservation before it was moved to the San Carlos Reservation. I'm just driving along on my way, and it just starts pouring out. Oh my gosh. I'm on the 17 highway going north through Arizona, and that just came in such a large amount that people were pulling over to the side of the road. It was so intense. Man, I don't know if I've ever seen that before when I've been here. Anyways, I'm hoping it doesn't do that during my hike. And 2 minutes later, not so bad. Well, the rain's tamed down an awful lot, but it's still drizzling, so we'll see how this goes. Our hike starts along a busy road, but soon we'll be up in the hills and away from the noise. Well, hello again. Thanks for joining me. I'm back in central Arizona, somewhere in the Verde Valley. And I'm looking for a prehistoric dwelling area that's going to be made up primarily of cavates, which are human hand-dug caves, not caused by natural phenomenon, but dug by humans for habitation. And I've got some crazy weather today. Not sure what's going to happen. I have a small umbrella with me just in case, but we got some crazy clouds in the sky and a bit of thunder off in the distance. I don't know if you can see behind me, but look at that. It's nice over here, but I'm not sure what's heading my way. Anyway, here's our first view of the cavates coming around the corner. With this stormy weather, I should have the trail pretty much to myself, I hope. And I know I'm risking maybe getting rained on pretty hard, but we'll see what happens. I'm being optimistic. Most of the rain looks like it's up in the mountains, so hopefully I'm okay down here. I'm not far from the Verde River, and we'll see. It's rained today and last night, and all this mesquite's wet, and it's given off a wonderful desert cologne smell that's just fantastic. It's if you haven't smelled it before, it's really unique and not something you really associate with the desert normally. It's kind of sweet almost. We're still a pretty good ways off from getting up there, but I'm starting to see bits of pottery everywhere in the ground around here. There's a piece, here's a piece, there. It's kind of littered all along the trail here. And I'm wondering if this whole area is just completely covered with little bits. Well, it looks like somebody made a little pile here. Not always the best idea, but yeah, there's bits everywhere around here. There. All through here are little pieces. Wow. I suppose this whole hillside here is just covered with them, as these cavates were used for hundreds of years up here at the top. This final section's getting a little more challenging, so you might have noticed I took off my long sleeve shirt and now have my usual blue one back on. Not far to get up here, but kind of straight up. Here's a few things. Let's see. I don't know. It looks like some sort of maybe cutting or I don't know. This definitely looks like a knife. Look at that sharp edge on it. This definitely fits right in your hand and scrape, scrape, scrape. We also got a big chunk of pottery here. And a bunch of little ones. Fascinating stuff. Well, we made it up here. Look at that. You can see the wall being held together by mortar there and all through here. Oh, look at this. Wow. Wow. It's amazing. You can see there's a separate little room out in the back there. Back of this room. And you can see there's lots of soot on the ceiling from cook fires. So people were living in this spot right here. The cave 8 goes over to the right here. Looks like it might connect with another space. Oh yeah, it comes out right here. It looks like these spaces were little cubby holes dug to store things in the wall. Lots more soot up on the ceiling here. Looks like it might be a little chimney up here, letting things go out, smoke go out.
Many of the larger structures from the Sinagua culture were built over a longer periods of time, with portions of the structure being used, falling into ruin, and being rebuilt on after that. This was not the case for the pueblo ruins on the mesa top. It appears to have been erected all in one effort, perhaps suggesting that this was a structure of some importance. Whatever its use, clearly this was something more than just your average living structure, and therefore ripe for people who hunted for artifacts. George Dawson was such a person. In the spring of 1927, he took his desire for discovery with him when he visited this structure on the mesa to hunt for old artifacts. As Dawson searched the area, he found what he assumed was going to be a small grave site built into the ground of the courtyard area. On top of the grave was a flat slab of sandstone, a common covering for graves such as this that contain human remains. From the outside, he could tell the slab was not big enough to be covering the grave for an adult. He immediately assumed the grave was for a child and that it would contain the usual artifacts buried along with the child. Dawson carefully removed the sandstone lid. The grave was of course not watertight, and after centuries had accumulated significant dirt and debris within it. He cautiously excavated, clearing the debris while being careful not to damage the artifacts within. Little did he know that what he would find would be much more resilient than the average pre-Columbian pots, clay figures, or stone artifacts. He did indeed find various artifacts there, but soon enough more was revealed. Within the debris was a bundled-up blanket of dried feathers. These were turkey feathers to be exact, and they were swaddled around what he assumed would be the remains of the buried child. He reached in to remove the bundle, but it would not budge. It was much heavier than anything he expected. Only with great effort could he eventually wrestle the contents of this bundle out of the ground. After removing the blanket from the heavy object, he was no doubt baffled. It was a large mass of rusting metal, which had seemingly no purpose in this blanket of feathers. Later, the fragments of pots found buried with it would be used to place the burial date at roughly 1,200 years before Dawson's search.
Wow, these are getting more and more extensive as I go. Looks like a fire pit down here, maybe. There's a wall. You can see the top was adobe'd up to make it the narrow entrance that it is. Little corn cob here. I got a feeling the longer we look, the more little tidbits of evidence we're going to be finding from the previous inhabitants. Now we're just above that spot we were earlier. You can see them down there below, sorta. Oh, look at that. It's a pretty good sized corn cob. Usually you'll see little tiny ones. And here's a smattering of pottery just laying around.
The Mesa Top Pueblo contains around 48 rooms, with some structures as high as 4 stories. The Cavates feature masonry walls and remnants of fire pits with soot, indicating past human activity. The community, like Montezuma's Castle and Tutsigut, was built up during the 1100s. The site was within the boundaries of the 1870s Indian reservation called the Old Military Reservation, and was certainly used by the Yavapai during this decade of confinement before being moved to the San Carlos Reservation. This village is the largest, most significant Pueblo community in the Verde Valley, and that includes Montezuma's Castle and Tutsigut. Yet it evaded formal excavation and preservation by the Antiquities Act.
Wow. A lot of soot in this one. Oh, it looks to be maybe a hearth of some sort here in the middle. Some place where they might have had a fire. You can see directly above it, it's very black. Wow, this goes way back here. Whole separate living area. I see a nice pile of bat guano here, but there's no bats on the ceiling, which means they're not here right now. It's the time of year where they're somewhere else. Wow, look at this little area down here that's been carved into the space. Lots of soot on the walls, lots of soot on the ceiling. And whole separate living areas back there. Amazing. Here's some more with probably a fire pit dug out here. Not sure what that is back there. Storage maybe? Could be someone's sleeping area.
In 1906, Montezuma's castle was preserved under Theodore Roosevelt's New Antiquities Act. In 1939, Tutsigut was excavated and similarly preserved. As early as the 1920s, there were proposals to excavate and rehabilitate this settlement, but when the issue finally got serious momentum in 1933, all the money for such an enterprise was already spent on Tutsigut. Lucky for us, this was the case, because it is wonderful to be able to experience the village in person, surrounded by native plants and environment.
Well, I walked along the cliff face until I kind of ran out of Cavates to see, and then I climbed up on the ridge above it, where I'm walking now, just to see what's up here. I heard there might be some evidence of maybe a pueblo up on the top, the mesa top up ahead, so I thought I'd go see if I could find a bunch of stones laying around. Still lots of thunder. Not really seeing much up here. Quite windy though. We'll take a little look around. Well, I got on top of the mesa and walked in a big circle. Didn't see anything interesting. Just a bunch of plants and stones and such. So I decided to come back down over here. It's still lightning a lot. I want to get off the top. But it kind of comes over to this sort of small high area that's covered with stones. Let's go check that out. Wow, look at that big crack in the rock. Just keeps going and going and going here. As we approach here, I'm pretty sure this is something. I mean, all these rocks, yeah, you can see this is in a circle right here. So there was a village up here. It wasn't just these Cavates in the side of the mountain, but there was also looks like a block room pueblo structure up here on top. Oh, and we're seeing a lot more thick chunks of the pottery. Still a lot of thunder. Oh boy. Wow. I didn't even realize this was up here. I thought it was just the Cavates. I thought I'd read about something and I thought this might be it, but I couldn't really see anything from Google Earth, and wow. This is just amazing to find all this. Oh, here we go. A little more structure than just the rocks. These are definitely stacked. You can see this was probably part pit house that went down into the ground and part topped with wood. Probably had wood beams over the top, which are long gone. Here's a pretty good sized room space. The ground is still littered with pottery everywhere I go. There's many little natural paths that have been worn by people or animals or both over time, and I'm sticking to those, so not really stepping on anything that might break or harm. But I'm pretty amazed at how extensive this is. I had no idea it was even really up here. Okay, I see some taller walls over here, sort of on the north side of the structure. And all these rocks were once stacked high very carefully to make a prosperous living community for probably hundreds of people. They would have farmed down below and been safe up here, able to see everything around them. That looks like a little cutting tool or scraping. Sharp edge on it. And it fits right in your hand. Wow, that was neat to find this little village up here on the top. It really has a commanding view, higher than everything around it. And here's this big crack that we were looking at earlier. Makes me wonder if this was around back then, or if it's something that occurred since this area was inhabited. And I don't know, maybe I wonder if it had a special meaning to the people that lived here. Wow. This location is actually pretty close to a fairly busy road. You could probably hear cars off and on in the background. I know I have the whole time, but this is a really interesting spot that's not hard to get to, and I've driven by it many times, but never bothered to stop. So I'm really glad I did. Glad you guys came along with me. Hope you found it fascinating, and hope you can join me on the next one. There's another Cave 8 adventure I'm going to go on pretty soon. It should be even bigger, and I think I'm gonna have to swim across the river to get there. So you'll have to join me for that one. Anyways, thanks again. Bye-bye.